Eric. Next up, we've got Shannon Bamforth from Codrus Minerals. Codrus listed on the ASX last year. They're an early-stage gold explorer focused on the US and Australia. They recently had some really good results from the Redgate project in WA, and there's an IP survey underway at Bull Run in the US. Please welcome Shannon.
Thanks, Christy, and like many other presenters have done today, I'd just like to thank the Reed corporate team for putting on another splendid event on the Gold Coast. This is my first time at the Gold Coast Resource Rising Stars wearing the Codrus hat. Indeed, as Christy mentioned, we were only listed last year in June. Previous to that, I've actually been and attended and presented at this conference with my Sandfire hat on in my previous role with Sandfire Resources. So it's good to see many familiar faces in the crowd and walking past the booth. So you've done well. You're 19 presentations in, and you've only got 3 to go, and it's been a day, and you've heard stories of copper, nickel, zinc, lead, platinum, palladium. The list goes on. So it's a really large amount of information for everyone to take in. So before we go into the details of what we're doing at Codrus, a very brief snapshot of what's our story. What does Codrus mean? So Codrus, we're explorationists that think differently. And we don't just think differently in terms of how we explore. We think about it geographically, geologically and corporately. And what can we do to actually generate returns for our shareholders? Because this is what it's all about. We're here to generate returns for shareholders. It's our job. The geology and the joy we get out of exploration is a wonderful byproduct, but we're here to generate value. When we look at our projects, we've got 4 projects in total, 3 in Western Australia and 1 in Oregon in the USA. In Australia, all of our projects are within short trucking distances to existing operating gold mines. So that's a wonderful asset for us to have, and we'll get into that in a little bit more detail later. Over at Bull Run, it's thinking different geologically. This is not an area that has got a lot of exploration attention. So we're first movers into well-mineralised districts with very little competition at the current time. And all 4 of our projects have demonstrated economic intercepts, and that's a real wonderful standout. We don't have one project that's our lead project and then some stocking fillers or some other tenements and other projects that we can sort of wrap up to say we're a whole company. Each of our projects has its own opportunity for exploration success. We're actively working our way through all of our projects. So it's not as though we're just sitting and focusing on that one key project, as I mentioned. We're actually working systematically through our project base. We listed in late June last year. We're still sitting on a very strong cash balance of $5 million. And wonderfully, we're still reviewing new opportunities to keep building up the Codrus story. So we'll kick into a bit more of the technical detail of the projects. So at Redgate, that's in the heart of the Edjudina mining district, which is dominated by Saracen's Carosue Dam operations. And there's a lot of satellites that feed into Carosue Dam. One of the major ones there is the Porphyry mine that's referred to Saracen as now Northern Star. It feeds into the Northern Star Carosue Dam operations as the Porphyry mine, and then further north of us to the top of the screen is Red October that also gets trucked down to Carosue Dam. At Redgate, our maiden drilling program was really encouraging. The results we had were fantastic, seeing some 23 metres at over 3 grams a tonne, including 15 metres at over 4. So for a first drill program, that was really great initial encouraging results. We've recently gone back and drilled another 2,200 metres, and that was really predicated on trying to understand the geology rather than just pad out additional gold results around the area where we've been seeing those wonderful initial results. So we're trying to understand geologically what is the bigger picture outcome, so that we can then start to work in on multiple prospects. So where we started at Redgate and got the wonderful results, we're sitting on where we can see these pink granites. And we think that what we're looking at is a geological situation where the fold hinges of the granite are broken up and is allowing the fluid pathways to open up and give us the gold mineralising occurrences. These are superimposed over northeast structures, and where we see the confluence of those two structures, that's where we're thinking we've got great opportunity to identify additional high-grade mineralisation. So the work at Porphyry West was really encouraging, and that was our start, and we really got going on the information at Porphyry West. It's rapidly evolving our understanding, and as I mentioned, it's those key structures that we're working on. We went further north up to Porphyry North and did some exploration into this district as well. And what we noticed at Porphyry North is you can see there's some shallow high-grade mineralisation that was drilled in the 80s and 90s, but no one had drilled deep into this part of the project. And what we saw was really encouraging. We saw some very wide intercepts of lower grade but continuous gold mineralisation. 20 metres at 0.4, 10 metres at 0.3, 7 at 0.8, all in areas that hadn't been drilled. So when we start to look at this from big orogenic gold systems, we can see that we've got large amounts of fluid flowing through the project. Now we just need to make sure we can work our way through systematically to get to the best trap sites, and I think we'll be able to sit in an area that's a long strike from Northern Star's Porphyry, and the results that will continue to flow out of Nexus's branches and Templar mineralisation. We'll actually see a district that's probably going to see plus 2 million ounces over the coming years, and we really believe that Redgate can contribute to the abundance of gold in this area. Moving further north, we go up into the Pilbara. And up in the Pilbara, we've got our Middle Creek project. And this is a wonderful project area for us. It's in the middle of a re-emerging gold district. When we start to think of the Pilbara and gold, up until a couple of years ago, there was really only the Nullagine project that was being run by Millennium at the time, which is now owned by Novo. But since then, we've had Novo get momentum, we've had Codrus get momentum, we've had De Grey get momentum, and really reinvigorated that Pilbara gold mining space. Our project tenure is located in a wonderfully attractive position. We have, as you can see on the screen, to the north the Blue Speck Fault and to the south the Middle Creek Fault. And historically, exploration has been predicated on sitting on those two fault zones and really looking for mineralisation that emanates from those zones. We've looked at this slightly differently and sort of said where we've got big structures, there's going to be subordinate structures and secondary order structures, and they're just as likely to carry the same fluids. So the opportunity when we look at our tenure in Nullagine is that there's not a single drill hole on our tenements to date. Our original work really followed us into doing some soil sampling, and that soil sampling very quickly started to identify some trends. And if we just go back one slide, if you actually go outside of our tenure and start to look at some of the trends of the prospects that they work, they start to line up very well with our soil sample anomalies. So we believe that we've got mineralised trends that are running right the way through our tenement that have never been tested. We've got numerous rock chip samples from surface going over a gram. So very rare to find this in Western Australia in pretty much any location. So it's a wonderful precursor to our exploration efforts really kicking off in vein. So our work up there recently has involved us going and doing a number of trenches over these soils anomalies so we can pick up some geological context, and we'll be in drilling these in the second half of this year and look forward to results coming out of there shortly. Another project that we have in the portfolio is the Silver Swan South Gold and Nickel project. So to the south of us, we've got the plus 5 million ounce Kanowna Belle. To the north, we've got the wonderfully high-grade Black Swan and Silver Swan nickel deposits. We occupy a nice piece of tenure right in between those two areas. We've got identified positively the right rocks and the right alteration on our ground as you would hope to see if you were looking for a KB repeat. So we think we've got the right rocks and the right alteration. We just need to zone into the hottest spots and get onto the right structures that actually would host the same style of mineralisation as Kanowna Belle. In the district, we've also got private miners over at Gordon Sadar, 5 kilometres to our west, mining and hauling material back down to the Burbanks processing plant in Kalgoorlie. They've actually got to traverse our tenements to get the ore back to their plant. So we've got lots of opportunities within our gold projects to actually develop a resource that may only be 250 or 300,000 ounces, but we can monetise that by being in close proximity to operating mines. Obviously, our goal would be to find something much larger, but in the interest of being non-dilutionary to our shareholders, if we found something smaller, we would look to try and monetise that to continue our exploration efforts afield in other projects and continue to build us as we move forward. And as we said, thinking differently geographically. When we think of Oregon and the USA, I'm sure that many people haven't really heard about it as a mining destination. But if we think about Australia and we think of the gold rushes and we start to go through and you'll circle through towns like Ballarat, Bendigo, Kalgoorlie, Coolgardie. When you start to talk about the gold rush in America, you talk about towns like Sumter, Cracker Creek, that are all in Oregon in very close proximity to us. Over 100 years ago, they went through and mined the alluvials through these districts. So they went into the rivers, dug up the rivers essentially, got to all the gold that had fallen out into the bottom of the river channels. And when that started to fall away, they started to look up into the mountains and go, well, where did the gold come from? And they worked their way back up the mountains and started to find outcropping mineralisation with visible gold in it. They then would start to do little drifts into the side of the mountains and mine the gold. Very little has been done on the projects in this area since. Mining generally came to a cessation at the start of the First World War, and there's been very little mining occur there, artisanally, yet alone with a major look at the world. Where we sit, we've got the Bull Run project. To the south of us, there's the Grassy Mountain project, run by Paramount Nevada Gold. And they're going through the permitting process to set up and start a mining operation there on over 1 million ounces. Excuse me. So one of the key things in this area is we have an option agreement over 12 mineral claims that are privately held, and the people that own these privately are currently mining on these claims. They go underground a couple of times a year, more as a hobby, and they mine some very high grade, almost an ounce a tonne dirt that they come out, process and take a little bit of gold out to pay for their troubles. In the area in the 1980s, the same owners actually optioned this area out to Newmont. Newmont went in and drilled 3 holes, the best of which returned 20 metres at just over 3 grams a tonne. In the 1980s, that was of no moment for Newmont. They were looking for Jerritt Canyons and the large deposits that would be working, and they were looking plus 7-8 gram thresholds to really continue to invest in a project. So at Bull Run, we've already got identified mineralisation. We know that there's gold there. But we're looking at this in a bigger picture, and we can see when we work outbound from the gold area, some of the joints and some of the surface manifestations of the outcrop, there's traces of malachite, which is a nice copper oxide mineral. So we see ourselves having an opportunity for some copper oxide and some copper primary mineralisation in there. Hence, we've just completed our first IP survey over the project, and whilst we're still doing the processing of that, the early indications is that there's some nice chargeability anomalies. So we're working our way through to being on the ground and drilling in the back half of this year. So all of our projects, you can see, we're drilling, trenching, working, getting results. We're working our way through our projects. We're on the ground, and it is really a ground-focused exploration company rather than a sit back and think about doing the exploration company. When we start to go through a very quick corporate snapshot, $7 million market cap with $5 million cash. So the leverage to exploration success is massive. And that's what we're there to do, is to generate value for our shareholders. We've got an experienced board that is really keen and passionate explorationists. and also very keen and able in the development space. So some key takeaways. We've got the cash, we're highly leveraged to success, we've got good projects, we're on the ground and working, and we've got an attractive capital structure. And just to conclude, I'll just see if anyone can remember back to the first presentation today by Headley. And in the very corner of his presentation, there wasn't a picture of a nickel cathode or platinum or palladium or lithium carbonate. He was talking about economic instability or instability. And there was a nice gold nugget in the corner of his slide, and I thought that actually rang true, that gold is a wonderful commodity in these times, and to be investing into gold as investors is a wonderful opportunity. So I thank you all for your time this afternoon. Look forward to seeing you at the booth and having further conversations. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Shannon. Next up, we'll hear from Strandline Resources. Today, Strandline announced that their Coburn Mineral Sands project in WA